Stand Up for Mental Health intro. Please read the following exactly as it is. Stand Up for Mental Health is a program that teaches stand-up comedy to people impacted by mental health issues as a way of building self-esteem and fighting public stigma. People with mental health issues are always being told what they can't do. In this show, you'll see what they can do. Stand Up for Mental Health has programs across Canada, the US, and Australia, and was featured in the Voice award-winning documentary, Cracking Up. And now let me introduce the founder of the program. David Granirer is both a counselor and a stand-up comic. He discovered personal growth at 18 and made it his life goal to, by age 50, move out of his parents' basement. His favorite pastime is listening spellbound to self-hypnosis tapes in his car, which explains why no one will sell him auto insurance. His counseling business job is going so well that last year he came dangerously close to quitting his job at 7-Eleven. He's the recipient of a Champion of Mental Health award. These national awards recognize individuals who have made outstanding contributions to the advancement of mental health agenda in Canada. He also received a Life Unlimited award from the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance. The award honors individuals who exemplify a life unlimited by depression or bipolar disorder, actively working to help others do the same. And he received an Award of Excellence from the National Council of Behavioral Health and Meritorious Service Medal from the Governor General of Canada for his work using comedy to destigmatize mental illness. David was also recognized as one of the 150 Canadian difference makers in mental health. He is here to be our host and MC for Stand Up for Mental Health. Please welcome David Granirer.
Hey, so thank you so much for coming out. Let's give you all a round of applause. Thank you. We so appreciate you being here. And we have 8 first-time comics. Let's give them a big round of applause. Huge round of applause. Yeah. And Mayor Choi, thank you for kicking out. You know why he got the members of town council to stand? Not to introduce them. He just wanted me to know who to pick on. So he was actually being like a scout for me. I've never had an audience member come on before the show and say, I want you to pick on this person and this. I mean, I usually have to find them myself, so I really appreciate that. That was a big help. Anyhow, let's give the town council a hand, because I know they do some fabulous work. And so like I say, we're here to talk about mental health, and of course we're coming out of the COVID thing and everything. And my son, I'm from Vancouver, and he goes to University of Victoria. So he was home for a lot of COVID because they were doing classes online. And so one day he's like, Dad, today we researched iambic pentameter of the late Middle Ages. And I'm like, how about you research how not to live in your parents' basement till you're 30? How about researching that? But people love this class, and I hear this all the time. They say, David, I had no idea how much easier it is to be funnier than you. But things have been going on at our house. Our hot water tank recently died. And I was giving a Zoom class, and the plumber's over fixing it, and they're like, what's that noise? What's that sound? That's the sound of my bank account being drained. But we have a financial planner. Problem is we don't have any money. But he's a real keener. He's like, dude, you got plenty of room in your RRSPs. And I'm like, for what? Despair? And he's like, yeah, I could transfer $14 worth of stock. And I'm like, right. So then the RRSP will be worth $14. Actually less, because the service charge is $15. So we actually measure our RRSP in negative numbers. But we're supposed to be very, environmentally conscious and stuff like that. And I just found out there's this thing called green burials. And I love this. I now have 3 guys in my compost pile My rhododendrons have never looked better. And they say that your soul is who you are when you strip away the brain, the body, and the heart. But not a lot of people want to have that operation. And those who do end up in my compost pile. But here's a fun fact, because I'm a counselor, as you know, among the other things I do. And apparently, for a heterosexual man, when an attractive woman smiles at a heterosexual man, it affects his brain the same as cocaine. Yeah, he gets depressed because he knows both are a luxury he can't afford. Oh, someone liked that one. People are going, yeah, that's about it too. But also, apparently, brain activity in husbands is the same when they watch TV as when their wives tell them to take out the garbage. In both cases, nothing happens. Just completely flat lines. Oh, I can see, Syrah. Yeah, you're going, yeah. Oh, you are in big trouble when you get home. Oh, by the way, Edmonton Oilers, 6-0. Wasn't that awesome? Yeah. Go Oilers. Yeah, I'm from Vancouver, of course, and our team, the Canucks, their slogan is, we'll find a way to lose, like, no matter what. They just want a hockey riot. That's all they want in our town. But I've been doing a lot of Zoom shows, of course, during this period of COVID, a lot of shows on Zoom. And we actually did a show for the U.S. Secret Service, and I'm like, well, how did you find out about us? And they're like, oh, we just did a random search. I'm like, yes, but was it a random search? Apparently I'm on some sort of watch list for bad comedians. Yeah, they took me literally when I said I always bombed. But we are, Canada, I'm proud of our military, and this is a true fact. Our military gives courses to our pilots on how to withstand torture and hopelessness. Yeah, they make them run as NDP candidates in Alberta. Yeah, but they don't want them to divulge top secret information to the enemy, because this is Canada. If the enemy wants that, all he has to do is ask politely. But yeah, and so let me see. I was going to tell you something. Oh yeah. Okay, so I have mental illness. I have depression, and I found this great way of overcoming depression. Whenever I'm depressed or bummed out, I go find someone who's really happy, and I suck the life force out of them. Thank you. I learned that from my parents. It's very effective. I see other people here obviously do that. But my wife and I joke, because we joke that she comes from a redneck family where they used to get drunk and traumatize each other. And I'm like, well, I come from a Jewish family. We're better than that. We don't need alcohol to traumatize each other. We do it with chicken soup and guilt. But this whole mental health thing, this mental illness thing, so there's a special language that we talk. It's called people first language. So they don't say we have mental illness. They say we're people with a lived experience of a mental health diagnosis. It's like, but then they only say, that's too long. So they just say, oh, you're a people with lived experience, because they're hoping that if they leave the terms mental and diagnosis till the end, nobody will know we're talking about mental illness, and they have succeeded, because now nobody knows what we're talking about at all. But yeah, so like I say, I have this mental health thing, mental illness, and there is so much stigma. There's still so much stigma. There was recently they put a mental health clinic in my neighborhood in Vancouver, and I'm thinking, what a great idea. People are going to be helped, people are going to be served. But there was a residents group. They were outraged. They were walking around holding up signs. These crazy people are going to come into our neighborhood and do what? Art therapy? I can just see them attacking pedestrians with macaroni and glue sticks. Stay in your homes, there's been an outbreak of collage. Oh, I just realized I forgot to put my mic condom on. We're being very careful because of COVID here. Anyhow, yeah, so I'm joking. I know. This is really... This is not part of the act. This is... Whatever. This looks like a shower cap. Yeah, so where was... Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm joking around with these anti-clinic people. They're like, oh, you think you're so funny, Mr. Stand-Up Comic. Sure, it all starts with finger painting, but pretty soon they'll be killing people with chainsaws. And I'm like, do you realize how much coordination it takes to use a chainsaw? When I'm medicated, I can't even operate a Swiffer. And it's hard to kill someone by mopping them to death. You know, the cops are like, cleanest corpse we've ever seen. The killer must have used lemon pledge. But when it comes to what these people don't realize, these people who are against the clinic, that as people with mental illness, we are way more afraid of them than they are of us. Okay, put it this way. People with mental illness, we commit 5% of all crime. That means normal people commit the other 95%. Have you ever looked at a normal person? They're polite, well-dressed, gainfully employed. They could snap at any moment. When it comes to crime, I feel way safer around some guy who hears voices and thinks he's the supreme ruler of the universe. Put it this way, when you are managing 50 billion galaxies, you are way too busy to steal my car. They're like, dude, we travel at light speed. Why would we want your minivan? But like I say, we're very, very cautious about the language we use. Like, you know, they say smoking cessation because nobody wants to hear the word stop. And they also call it, they used to call it substance abuse, but that was too negative. So then they called it substance misuse, but that just sounds like you're not doing it right. And now they call it substance use. Well, cheese is a substance. Nobody who's not lactose intolerant goes to a mozzarella cessation program. And then they call them smoke-free zones because nobody wants to say the word no. Do you realize how ridiculous that is? I can just see it. Little Billy, I've had it. From now on, under the kitchen table is a booger-free zone. And I was doing this conference, this gig, and I sent them my biography, and it said, David suffers from bipolar. And like, oh no, you can't say suffers, that's too negative. So I'm like, oh, you want me to phrase it positively? Okay, David loves hiking, skiing, and wallowing in despair. When not riding his mountain bike, he can be found hiding under the sheets and weeping uncontrollably while Celine Dion's Titanic plays in the background. But as I mentioned, I'm a counselor, and that has really screwed up my life. It's terrible. I can no longer feel empathy for someone unless they pay me. And I was pulled over at a roadblock, you know, and the cop's like, you know, shines a flashlight and, you know, he's like, have you been drinking? And I'm like, how does it feel to ask that question? So I'm in the police van. And it also gave me a really interesting way of raising my kids. So instead of timetables, I made them memorize the Beck Depression Inventory. Every night, I'd make them identify that day's cognitive distortions. When Mommy said Daddy will never do chores, was she A, jumping to conclusions, B, overgeneralizing, or C, just stating a fact? Wrong, it was D, documenting reasons for divorce. And when Daddy said the kids don't do chores either, was he A, labeling, B, deflecting, or C, just trying to weasel out of doing the dishes? Wrong, it was D, trying for a divorce. But also, there's actually been some research done on, because I'm on tons of medications. I'm on so many medications. I actually am now taking medications that I used to take before that didn't work. It's like watching reruns of Game of Thrones and thinking, this did not end well. But the producers assure me that if I watch the same episode again, it will have a different outcome. And it's true, because now I'm so sedated, I watch the same episode and I just think it had a different ending. But they've done this research. There's an antidepressant they've researched, and apparently it makes mice swim faster. Millions of dollars of mice swim faster. So steroids are no longer the #1 performance-enhancing drug. Now it's actually an antidepressant that causes headaches and diarrhea. The only performance that motivates me to do is get to the bathroom in under 30 seconds. Hey, come on, in the mental health Olympics, that's a gold medal, okay? But they actually have the mental health triathlon. It consists of making your therapist cry at the end of every session, making it to 1 out of 8 DBT therapy sessions, and taking all your psych meds and still being able to correctly spell DBT. But I used to also work for the Vancouver Crisis Center, and their problem, of course, they never have any money. And I solved their problem. When I left, I had them get corporate sponsorship. But the problem with that is now they have to work commercials into their calls. Hello, you've reached the Coors Light crisis line. So you're angry because your husband left you for another woman. Well, hey, you can run him over with the new Dodge Ram truck. And when I was first like a volunteer, way back in the day, I didn't know what I was doing. I was on the crisis line, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's like, I'm really bummed out because I haven't been laid in 6 months. And I'm like an idiot. I'm like, well, it's been a lot longer for me. And he's like, well, what kind of loser are you? So there was a crisis that night. It just turned out not to be his. Anyhow, folks, I'm going to bring on your first comic. Are you ready for your first comic? Just want to make sure I'm bringing up the right person. Oh, yes. Okay, your first comic. And these folks, this is their first time they've done comedy, so we want to give them all of our love and support. Can we do that? Can we give them all of our love, all of our support? Please welcome up your first comic, Mr. Tyler Fedge.
Does anyone else have that voice in the back of their head that keeps telling them, you can't do that? Or you're going to fail? There's a name for that. I think it might be German. Schaden something. No, wait, it's family. I really do struggle with my self-esteem. I always feel that I'm not good enough or that I'm not meeting expectations. And I'm always looking for that validation. But if there's one thing that my family taught me, is that I'm right. I always seem to have things around me that are extremely fragile. Like I have fine art, we have rare stemware, my ego. My greatest problem, though, is probably addiction. Every day isn't complete without coffee, cigarettes, and a big bowl of hatred for the human race. I also have an addiction to candy that I have to give up. I really wish my wife had never met her. I live a really privileged life. I really do. I have a great job, an amazing wife, and no kids. 3 times lucky. I have a close friend who has 2 kids, and he always tells me, kids ruin everything. What a great friend for providing me with such strong birth control. Don't get me wrong, I do love kids. I have 11 nieces and nephews, and when I met my wife, I got 5 more. That's 16 kids. My favorite time with them is when they're getting ready to go home. In all seriousness, my wife and I did try to have kids and we couldn't. It was actually quite hard on us. Those little buggers run fast. And look at me, I'm not chasing after anyone. But here's an interesting thought. There are a lot of support programs out there for parents, but there's absolutely nothing for the childless. This doesn't make sense to me at all. Why do you need anything if kids are such a blessing? But it has been hard. My wife and I started going to counseling for the childless. So every Thursday night, we go and we talk about how hard it is to meet new people, why we can't have kids, and what are we gonna do with all this money? The therapist is really helping with that last one. But I really do have an amazing wife. We've been married for over 10 years. We've been together a heck of a lot longer, but neither of us can really remember how long. So I guess you really do block out severe trauma. And you know how they say a good scare can cure the hiccups? Well, every time my wife gets the hiccups, I get naked. She hasn't had a prolonged bout in over 15 years. I also worry a lot, and I worry about very existential things, and they take me down these rabbit holes. Like the current economic system, in order for it to sustain itself, it has to keep growing. But there's a problem with this. Nothing grows forever. Except my visa bill. But here's the rabbit hole. Plants grow and they'll eventually die. You blow a bubble and keep blowing it, it's gonna burst. And even the universe is gonna collapse on itself in 22 million years. That's just around the corner. You know, they say that generally people tend to project their anxieties and fears onto others. I don't think that's true. I know everybody is plotting to kill me. And I'm an introvert. I can be friendly and social when called upon to do so. I can mingle, small talk, feign interest with the best of them. But one thing I'm really good at is holding a grudge against my wife for putting me in the situation to begin with. But you know, this pandemic has been hard on me. You know, my wife is in mental health, and she's constantly analyzing me, I think. And she's told me that she's worried about me because I don't really have a strong desire or need to be social on a regular basis. So she thinks this has led to anxiety, depression, and plotting my next kill. The worst part is knowing that somebody is on to you. You've been great, thank you so much.
Gotta make sure we get the right one. Hey, let's give it up for game for Tyler Fedge. Yes, and as a therapist, I am actually helping him spend some of that extra money. Just one of the services I offer. Actually, I have to tell you, I'm a counselor. I've been a counselor for ages, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, you go a counselor. They know nothing. This is me during the session for 90% of the time. So yeah, we don't know. Actually, I've been counseling for a long time, and I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I've had clients who have been seeing me for over 25 years. He's like, so David, you don't actually help people. You just wait till they die of old age. Anyhow, folks, your next comic, please give it up for Gavinas.
No one told Thank you so much. I'll take these out. So, thank you. Thank you, Grandma. Off to a good start. That's a pretty good laugh ratio right there. So the other day, my landlord texted me, and she told me to cut back on my water usage. I guess I'm gonna have to find another place to cry. It's a true story. I never really thought of myself as a talented person until I had a Category 4 panic attack during rush hour and survived. Too bad about the other 5 pedestrians, though. I mean, nobody's perfect, right? It really is. If you haven't guessed by now, I have depression and anxiety. And even though depression is the most common mental illness, there are still 6 different types. So finding out which one you have is a big day. It's kind of like being sorted into a house in Harry Potter, but without the magic. There's no magic. What happens is, for those of you healthy people, your doctor makes you fill out a survey on your emotions, and then they read it back to you, like the stats on a baseball card. And then they assure you that no matter what you have, there is no cure. And once I got that level of my life unlocked, I had to tell my mom. Yes. And she's always said she doesn't believe in medicating for mental health, the way someone says they don't believe in ghosts or democracy. But medication is real. It is real. One time I had a panic attack in front of her, and watching someone watch someone have a panic attack with no information on what it is a lot like a teenager trying to read a paper map. What do I... Okay. On the plus side, she does now believe in exorcisms. My mom has always encouraged me to get a boyfriend, thinking that that would solve my problems. So we compromised and I got a therapist instead. And I mean, really, she's more like a friends with benefits because she's covered by my health insurance. Finding a therapist was tricky, especially if you are someone who is studying psychology like myself. It becomes a game of wits. And you start with one therapist, and then you find out who their therapist is. And then you keep climbing the ladder until you get to the final therapist, who turns out to be a hairdresser. The first session I had with my therapist, not my hairdresser, my therapist, she asked me, "Have you ever been to therapy before? And if so, what for?" And I said, "Yes. I've seen many therapists, and I'm still trying to get over my commitment issues." Yeah. She actually said to me the other day that I've been seeing her for 6 months. So I guess we're official now. And I'm gonna have to tell my family about her. And the cool part about telling your family you're in therapy is they always ask, "What for?" So I've decided to start carrying mirrors around with me to hand out in family functions. my therapist gives great advice. She says running is a really good activity for mental health, which let me know that it is okay to run from your problems. So for Christmas, I asked for a Fitbit, and I think they should start putting warnings on the back that says, good for people with depression or anxiety, but not both. Because the moment I took that watch out of the box, it took the form of a nagging mother telling me, hey, take a walk, go take a walk, which then turned into a 5-kilometer panic attack, which is still my personal best. Still. Thank you. I think the worst part about a Fitbit, though, is the little vibrations on your wrist all the time. It's like Morse code on your soul, letting you know when it's time for your next exorcism. Thank you.
Give it up for Syrah Gavinas. And if she goes up the ladder to find my therapist, she will never find my hairdresser. I fired that person years ago. Yeah, so I take medication, like I say, and it makes my hands shake sometimes, which isn't all bad because last week our blender broke down. But it's interesting because the shaking gets worse every time my wife, and by the way, my wife's sitting over there. Let's give her a hand. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming, sweetie. But it's interesting because the shaking gets worse every time my wife asks me to do chores. And I thought that would never mean I would never have to do chores again. But now she's finding chores that are good when you have shaky hands. So now I am the Connor McDavid of toilet bowl cleaning. Go Oilers, yeah. Okay, folks, your next comic. Please welcome Landon Penner.
Thanks so much. All right, it is great to be here. I'm going to take this out. Okay, it's great to see you all, see all the lovely faces in the crowd here. It's great to see all the other ones too. So, I have this cousin. She's quite mean. She babysat me growing up, and she loved to tickle me all the time. So one time she tickled me so much that I actually peed myself. I was actually late for rehearsal because of it. Anyway, she's an elementary school teacher, and she teaches kids useless information like trigonometry and arithmetic, things they'll never use unless they're a math teacher. So I tell her, do you know what you need to teach them? Teach them how to live in your 30s. That's an important skill. The other day I coughed, and I literally sprained my back. I couldn't walk for days. That's important information to teach. So she says to me, well, maybe this is why you don't have a backbone. Right. It's strange being the same age as old people. So I have a sister-in-law. She is a nurse, clumsiest person I know. She got transferred to the maternity ward. Lasted 2 days because her patient's water kept breaking. I have another family member. I'm not going to out him because he raised me better than that. He works at a special waste treatment plant. So growing up, I was exposed to lots of toxic waste. And it comes with its benefits. I glow in the dark. Super, super cool party trick. Acid rain doesn't affect my skin. Which, speaking about, growing up, I thought acid rain was going to be a bigger problem than what it is. The other thing about growing up next to special waste and being exposed to all that toxic waste is that they said I would never be able to get a woman pregnant. Well, surprise, I'm gay. So, guess they're right. So, when I was in my dating years, I dated this guy who was chronically depressed. And I dated everyone. I'm like Skittles. I wanted to taste every flavor of the rainbow. So, chronically depressed guy starts making small talk with me. He says, well, what was your biggest mistake? And I was like, well, I'm pretty confident. So I'm like, I don't make mistakes. And he goes, well, you made one, going on a date with me. You know, it's great not having to date anymore. I've been together with my partner, Zach, for 10 years. Yeah. That's 60 in gay years. My kind just don't stay together. And I gotta say, it's not really appropriate to compare gay dating or men to dog years, but let's be honest, they're hairy, yappy, and they'll chase after any bone they can find. The first time I cooked for Zach, my husband, I made him hash browns, okay? And Zach is allergic to everything. Gluten, eggs, dairy, pretty much anything that makes anything worth eating. And I cooked these hash browns in butter. And he reminded me, he said, I'm allergic to dairy, so I can't eat those. So I was kind of a little bit upset, and I said, okay, well, are you allergic to cologne too? He goes, no. And I was like, perfect, I'll just cook them in Axe body spray. So Zach is my husband. When we first started dating, he actually got testicular cancer. He's probably really excited that I'm up here talking about his junk in front of you all. But he had to get one of his balls removed. So like any loving partner, I looked up other famous people that have one ball. The results? Tom Green, Hitler, and Tupac. Maybe one pack. Needless to say, I didn't cheer him up, so I just gave him the name Half Zach. So, Zach and I are on a surrogacy journey, so we want kids, and the stuff that we have to go through is ridiculous. To even get a referral to the surrogacy clinic, we had to get a referral from our doctor saying that we can't have kids naturally. So, him and I walk into the doctor's office with his form. Sorry, doc, we tried everything and it's just not working. Another form I had to fill out was a medical history form. No word of a lie, one of the questions, have you ever experienced sudden unexplained death? Nope, pretty sure I haven't. Have you ever read that book, Love Languages? Yeah? Okay. So it talks about words of affirmation and gifts. Soft touch is one of them. My love language? Valium. With a little bit of Xanax. I have OCD, self-diagnosed of course, like any good at-home Google doctor. So I have 100 lists that keep me on track for my life. There's medical lists and grocery lists and renovation lists and things I'm gonna do. Well, this one time, my medical list and my grocery list got mixed up. So I ended up going to the urologist and asking him for a steak. He asked me how I wanted it done. I said, meaty like usual. So during the pandemic, I think all of our mental health took a hit. So one of the things I tried was signing up for a wildlife rehabilitation center. They asked me to house a skunk at our house. I was a little bit nervous. Told them, I'm a little bit nervous about the smell, but the skunk will probably get used to it. So I teach a course on self-care, and I go around the room and I always ask people, what is it that you do for self-care? And people always say running. I call bull crap. Have you ever looked at someone that was running? Their face is always angry or sad and they have sweat pouring down their face and in their eyes and their bangs are hitting themselves. No, running is not self-care. I'll tell you what self-care is. An extra large pizza to yourself with some chocolate cake. That's self-care, and we'll put a smile on your face. So, I'm addicted to sweets. I love chocolate cake, vanilla cake, birthday cake, salted caramel, anything, devil's food cake, all of that. And my therapist said, you know what? You can get rid of that addiction. You'll probably trade in for another addiction. So I'm happy to say that I'm no longer addicted to sweets. But I could use a big chunk of cheddar cheese right now, or some mozzarella, or some Gouda, or that Greek salad with a few vegetables, but covered in that delicious white cocaine. Mental health is wild. There's this actual syndrome called Alice in Wonderland disorder. You can look it up. It's a real thing. It's rare, and it makes people think things are bigger than they actually are. Come to think of it, I actually know quite a few men that have this. All right, I want to end on a happy note. I love it when people die what they do, what they're passionate for, what they love doing. So like rock climbers plummeting to their death, or hunters being eaten by grizzly bears. I can't wait to get off this stage and choke to death on another one of those tacos. All right, thanks everyone, you've been great.
Emotional faders keep repeating self-fading phrases. I have heard enough of these voices, almost like I have no choice. This is biological.
Yes, Landon Penner. Yes, Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. I believe they call that the provincial legislature. It's a joke, people, it's a joke. Well, maybe not. I mean, not necessarily you're like every provincial legislature. I'm an equal opportunity. So, I just want to tell you a little bit about the new trend in therapy. They're using LSD, like mushrooms in therapy, psilocybin. And I myself, so it's psychedelics, and I myself am one of the premier researchers into the use of psychedelics. I conducted numerous trials during my late teens and early 20s. Featuring me as the primary test subject. But it's interesting because a lot of the times they use psilocybin mushrooms, and I can just see my health insurance. Sorry, Mr. Granirer, we don't cover pizza toppings. Try a health provider called Little Caesars. And since you have mental problems, maybe add some crazy bread. But the way it works, okay, so you need to have 2 therapists on site. You need 8 preparation and integration sessions, 3 12-hour sessions, cost $15,000. In the 70s, we'd get a hit of acid for $5, and our preparation session went like this. Hey, you want to get high? Yeah, okay, let's do it. And our integration session was like, whoa, that was awesome. Got any more acid? And back then, our favorite album to trip to was Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. And to listen to it today, you have to know how to use Spotify. Back in the 70s, to listen to it, you used to have to know how to get stoned and then fix a cassette tape with a pencil. But, really, I mean, sit around for 12 hours. We wouldn't waste a high. Back in the 70s, we'd do stuff. A friend of mine got high on LSD and he went to work at Dairy Queen. I mean, he didn't actually have a job there. All right, folks, your next comic, please welcome Mr. Connor Syrah.
Once upon a time, a few mistakes ago, I was in your sights. You got me alone. You found me. You found me. You found me. I guess you did.
Welcome back. fitting that the kid that looks like he's going to sell drugs behind the 7-Eleven is right after that set. I don't have that one written down. So I've had depression since the day I was born, but I never really knew until like last year. And the doctor only gave me medication for it like 6 months ago. It only took an complete dissociation and a barbecue to clean. So I've also had ADHD since the day I was born. It must have been hell on my parents. Having a kid that bounces off the wall and says everything on his mind must piss Satan off too. So being depressed has actually been quite significant in my life. You know how many people actually listen to me talk now? Look at all of you. I love it when winter's finally over, seasonal depression's done for the year. Flowers start to bloom again. It's spring. I can't wait for my pollen and snow mold allergies and return of regular depression. These past 2 years of COVID have been some of the best and worst of my entire life. I had a lot of time to think about myself while I sat around and thought about myself. So I dropped out of college to pursue comedy and writing as a career. Now I'm majoring in disappointing my parents. As someone who's still young, you get a lot of advice. Everyone wants you not to go down the same path they did. So if you guys made such bad decisions, why should I listen? It's so hard to relate with a lot of you, especially you guys, because I actually had loving parents. To think about it, I actually had a pretty good life. But this is a comedy show, not a TED Talk. So I just recently bought a bong. It's always fun to experiment. You can put different stuff in there. I've tried weed, oregano, childhood trauma. That one's pretty fun. So insomnia is interesting. Wake up at 3 to 4 in the morning, not sure if you're high, drunk, disorientally tired, or dealing with one of your other 4 other mental health problems. And it's usually all of the above. I was in charge of keeping score at a school basketball game once. When I finally got around to marking the first points, the janitor was already telling me to leave because he needed to mop the floor and lock the doors. Mind you, this is the same janitor that had to let me in after hours to get my forgotten homework. So I was always told to follow my dreams, but I don't think following shirtless Obama and Mitt Romney while riding bears on the moon is a good idea. Thank you, everyone.
That was a great ending. Yeah, shirtless Obama and Mitt Romney on the moon. So speaking of LSD, actually, like I say, I used to do a lot of LSD in the 70s when it was mandatory. And I remember once I was high on LSD and I was looking at the mountains because there's a lot of mountains in Vancouver, and I saw the trees jumping into the water. I'm thinking, well, this isn't real. This can't be happening. They're not wearing their bathing suits. But they are wearing their trunks. Hey, come on, I went out on a limb for that joke. All right, folks, your next comic. Please welcome Mr. Jeff Miller. I forgot to mention Jeff Miller, retired teacher, great stand-up comic, and racquetball champion. Give it up for Mr. Jeff Miller.
That was a really nice welcome. Thank you. I wasn't sure it was for me. Might surprise some of you, but when I was younger, growing up, I felt unseen. Had parents that were awful busy, watching TV and smoking cigarettes. Yeah. Usually Elvis movies. They like to watch that on the VCR. That's how old people spell DVD. Yeah. I don't think they know about streaming. Yeah, so Mom, she loved Elvis. Yeah, she thought he was super handsome, great singer. There are lots of days that I felt just like Elvis. Well, you know, nobody knows whether you're alive or dead. Tried therapy once. Sat down on the counselor's couch, started telling her how I felt unseen and invalidated. She lit up a cigarette. Said, "When did you get in here?" She, in the end, she was helpful. She pointed out that my focusing on the past was always feeding my depression, and that if I wanted to get any better, that I'd have to change my perspective. So now I just look to the future and feel anxious. Never had a formal psychiatric diagnosis, but I did type in my symptoms on Google. Don't judge, I know you've all done it. And you're all recovering from leprosy or something. I typed in feeling anxious, unseen, invalidated, self-hatred. Found out I had all the qualifications to be a comedian or a teacher. So that's why I'm here up on stage. It said I could be a comedian. I decided that I was going to try this out. David was very helpful in training us and giving us all the resources we needed. Handed us a book, handed us his book. Said I was going to trick my monkey mind, and I was going to procrastinate on my procrastination. So I started reading it right away. I started highlighting all the important techniques, things that David had to teach us. When I got to the end of the first chapter, I had to erase everything because I couldn't see my iPad screen anymore. My last girlfriend was a narcissist. Yeah, she was very selfish, self-centered. She didn't do anything I wanted to do. I didn't know how to break up with her, so naturally I ghosted her for 3 weeks. She didn't even ask, "Where's Waldo?" My truck was stolen a while back. That was a bit of luck. You know, because she was in it. Yeah, I haven't seen the two of them for over 2 years now, which is also lucky. Because, I mean, if it happened today, I don't think I could have afforded to give the thief my keys and gas money. So, that was lucky. Teaching. I was a teacher for over 30 years. Yeah, 4 happy years. Like my childhood. Teaching is a tough job. It's very stressful. There's not much time for yourself. I particularly hated outdoor recess. In the winter time, when it's minus 19. With the wind chill, it was like minus 1,000,000. Yeah. And those little ones, they take forever to get their snow gear on, right? By the time they get outside to play, all the other teachers had gone off to the staff room, and there was nobody to help me do up my snow pants. And the moment I walked out the door, the lineup began. All those elementary kids having to tattle. All the bullies, one right after another. Teacher, teacher, teacher! That girl's being a bully. Oh, how come? She's not playing with me. So I bend down, you gotta get on their level. You go, "Honey, I know that hurts, but I think she's just exercising good judgment." Teacher. That boy in the snow pants over there with the hat and the parka, he looked at me. Well, son, did he make an angry face or a scary, threatening face? I don't know. I didn't look. Okay. And then when we got inside, you'd think the tattling would stop. But no. Yo, Mr. Miller. Some guy just pushed me. Did you get a good look at him? Do you know who it was? No, just some guy pushed me, fish breath smelling jerk. I had mixed feelings about that one because part of me feels like I got away with something. And the other part just felt unseen. Speaking of bullying, my brother was my bully, my brother Brent. Every day he'd pin me down, torment me, torture me, call me names. You know, why is it that bullies can always see victims? And it's like we wear a target on our head or something. I got back at my brother a couple of years back. I did. I decided to round up a couple of badasses that I knew to teach me how to cyberbully. I was talking to Kenzie Keyboard. I saw Toby Trash Talker. A couple of other grade 4 students from Calgary. They helped me put together, campaign, cyberbullying campaign. Got back at my brother, so I hacked onto his Facebook wall and posted a poop emoji. Yeah, it's angry furrowed brows and fangs and really scary and stuff. Yeah, that worked. Yeah. I'm retired now, though. Like being a carpenter, I think. You know what I really like about working with wood is that unlike teenagers, it doesn't talk back to you when you try to make it into something useful. Amazing. Thank you. As David had mentioned in my introduction, I have been quite successful at racquetball. I started when I was 15 years old. It was very therapeutic for an angry teenager. Yeah, hitting that little rubber ball as hard as you could into your opponent's back. Yeah. Played at the open level competitively for a number of years. Yeah. That's like playing pro in the States, only we're paid in Canadian dollars, so it's a lot poorer. Yeah. Came in second at nationals 4 years ago, right? Thank you very much. Thank you. At my age, right? Second at nationals. But that wasn't good enough for a perfectionist like me, because we all know that there's one thing better than being second at nationals, and that's having parents that love you. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yes, Mr. Jeff Miller. Wasn't that great? Teacher, they're not laughing at my jokes. Well, maybe they're just exercising good judgment, David. Anyhow, I'm going to keep the show going right along. Please welcome up your next comic, Reena Joy.
Thanks for coming tonight, everyone. So I asked my husband to help me pick out an outfit for tonight's show. Nice, right? This is not what he picked. Slave Leia is never family appropriate unless you're at a Comic-Con. So I'm a writer, and my husband's a mechanic. And I was curious, so I asked him, is it easy to cut brakes? Can you show me? I learned it takes less than 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. Don't worry, this is research purposes only. I'm a children's author. So drinking decaf is beneficial for many reasons. It helps with anxiety. I sleep better. It's great for rage. Because anytime someone irritates me, I throw it in the offender's face. It's fine, it's organic. Like a chemical peel for free. So recently I was leaving Tim Hortons with my stupid decaf. And this chick backs right into me. Bam, thousands of dollars worth of damage. And it could have all been avoided if earlier that day I had switched the hallway light off 4 times instead of 3. The odds weren't in my favor. So I've been in therapy for about a year now, but it took some time to find the right therapist. The first therapist was available in 2045. The second therapist talked so much, I debated sending her a bill for my services. But I knew I found the right fit when I spent the entire 50-minute session swearing like I was trying to break a world record. She looked right in the eye of the tiger, and she said, "F off." It was magical. So my therapist says I have a tendency to catastrophize, which means blow things out of proportion. It's an anxiety thing. But I think it's perfectly normal to be standing on an elevator and a good-looking guy gets on and smiles, and I start drafting goodbye texts. I've seen the documentaries. Stuff is about to happen. This guy's been following me all day. Red flags, ladies, red flags. So what if he's my husband? I don't know, maybe I should cancel my Netflix subscription. How many of you grew up with a toxic work mentality? You know, where you have to be on your deathbed not to go to work. And even then, you still might try. Working through everything was a badge of honor for me. Sore throat? Go in. Panic attack? Stuff it down. Husband in a horrific accident on Sunday? Clock in Monday morning. It was fine. He was still in a coma anyways. Sort of a true story. Have you ever wondered if instead of having a panic attack alone in your car, you walk into a staff meeting and let it play out? Give them something to talk about at the Christmas party you weren't invited to? So I've been with my husband for about 16 years. Any long-term relationships in the crowd by applause? Okay, that's great, we've got a few. What do you think is the secret to a successful relationship? You just shout it out. Nothing, we're all super happy in this crowd, I love it. That's great. Well, my secret sauce is duct tape. Leaky sink still not fixed? Duct tape. On a budget, Bonita wax? Duct tape. partner talks too much? You got it. Chloroform. My husband's hearing that joke for the first time. Love you, honey. So women often complain about their partner's bad habits when they irritate you for your health. Honey, let me get that sock for you. The lunge, it's great for your hips and your back. Toilet seat up again. The squat, it's great for your butt. Dirty boot prints 3 seconds after mopping the floor. Rub their face in it. I'm not your mother. It's great for rage. So I work through an intervention, and my boss said, Reena, everyone misses the old you. The one that doesn't tell dead cat jokes. So I replied, if I don't tell the joke, did my cat really die? So I told a few jokes about my husband tonight, but the truth is, I love being married. He is my person in sickness and health that can't testify against me. If I could leave you with one piece of advice tonight, it's be nice to creatives. Because an artist will paint you all disfigured. A writer will kill you off in their novel. A comedian will roast you in front of a live audience. In fact, I have my hit list right here. I'm just kidding. A psycho cuts your brakes. Thank you all. You've been great.
Yes, Reena Joy. Joy. So this actually, I don't know if you folks know this, this isn't actually a comedy show. This was just an excuse to get you in here away from your cars so Reena could cut your brakes. So far she's cut half of your brake lines. We just don't know which half. So I would suggest you be rather careful. But the good news is that we have duct tape. So if you need some duct tape to glue your brake, that'll work great. Okay, so your second last comic. Please welcome Angela Fedge, Musik.
Oh, Cinnamon, where you gonna run to? Cinnamon, where you gonna run to? Where you gonna run to? All on that day, will I run to the rock? Please hide me around the rock.
If you don't know where that song is from, that is Nina Simone. Nina Simone lived with bipolar disorder and was a brilliant musician. So, okay. So welcome everybody to our show tonight. Are you having a good time? Thank goodness. Did everybody get something to eat? Okay, Grandma, I'm not going to hell. I fed everyone. Okay, so I recently stayed at a hotel. Hotels really need to learn to be more inclusive. They have signs on the door that say, do not disturb, but there's no sign for me that says, I am disturbed. I need to get in my slapping groove. There is a book called Everything I Learned from My Kids. I can't have kids, yay me. So with my medication, I also have a very low libido. So everything I've learned from my dogs and Caesar Milan. So I use the no talk, no touch, no eye contact when my husband tries to make advances. It shuts him down pretty quick. Yeah, you could clap for that. That was funny. Come on. So chintzy with your laughter and clapping. Okay, I'm diabetic. You guys are pretty judgy. You looked at me, said there's a redhead, and went, that's a diabetic if I ever saw one. All right. So I do have to take medication for lots of things. My medication is also super helpful. It adds to my anxiety and gives me constipation, and that medicine that helps me with anxiety and constipation gives me diarrhea and depression. My stress is drastically reduced, but not clearly as much as the CEO of Pfizer, who just bought his third continent with my medication. You guys are getting better. All right. Lots of comics took the microphone off. I did not. I am in charge of health and safety tonight. Me removing this microphone is not safe for you. I thought about if I took it off what I could do. I thought we could play like I'm the bride and you guys be ready to catch. But the town wasn't going to cover if I knocked you out, so we're leaving it there. I'm Ukrainian and very anxious. If you can't tell, I'm talking really fast and jittery. When you're talking to me one-on-one, take 2 to 4 steps back. If you're talking to me in a large crowd, 4 to 6 is really advised. You're probably okay. I am at the Dean's dinner. Picture this. We're at the Dean's dinner. It's a hoity-toity affair. We're all dressed up. There's really fancy people, really important people to my academic career. We're in the Dean's dinner. And of course, there I am. It's a crowd. So I'm gesturing like I'm bringing in a jumbo jet telling my story. And lo and behold, the dean happens to turn the corner just as I'm whipping out my hand. He's wearing wine, so I rush to grab a napkin to take care of that, and whoosh! It was not a napkin. I am not a magician. All right. I'm a child of the 70s. How many of you are children of the 70s? There is not enough of you, and there is a reason why. There was no seatbelts, no helmets, and if you were like my parents, you took the phone off the cradle, dialed the number to the party you were going to, put it by the crib, and then went to that party. The sound of beer bottles opening is still a bedtime song for me. Okay, now I don't want you to clap here. If you have ever had an awkward moment or conversation with me, please do not applaud. My coworkers, oh shoot, I left it on the table. My coworkers, we did this thing. They were like, oh, you know what really helped us to understand you? We did the color thing. Okay, who's done the color thing or like a disc profile? Let's have some claps. Yeah. The book starts out with, who am I? The book should also end with, who am I? So the color profile for me ties. It ties between two very contrary colors. I am yellow, which sounds very lovely. I'm yellow, and yellow is about involving me. I'm ready to spend time with you on a process that could take days, weeks, months, years. I'm there for you. But you've got 5 seconds to tell me about it, because I am red too, and that's be bright, be bold, and be gone. So my coworkers understand me? I think not. Unless they're like, oh wait, I do understand her. She's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Run if she's smiling. That also explains why earlier last year, I was like, okay, it's COVID and we need people to know where the crisis resources are, so we did this sticker campaign. And I bring the stickers to my boss, and I kid you not, she kind of sits back, and she's really collecting her thoughts on how she's gonna say this diplomatically. And she says, why did we put stickers on toilet paper rolls? Or crisis resources on toilet paper rolls. And I'm like, why didn't we? Why didn't we? Can you imagine? There you are in the toilet sobbing, and you pull out that piece of toilet paper and snot all over it. Crisis resources on every square. You go out of the bathroom and the toilet paper is trailing behind you. Crisis resources for your mortification. You're sitting in the toilet thinking about how your life is going down the crapper, and there are the crisis resources. And ladies, there would never be a man without crisis resources, because there is always a woman there to change that toilet paper roll. I said I'm awkward, and I am. I have trouble reading facial expressions, body language, all of those things most people don't know about me. I act really well. Maybe not so much, you guys aren't laughing. You actually all knew this about me, okay. Good to know. So where was I going with this? Oh yes, clean house. So I love to stay at people's houses, at friends' houses. If I'm going to a city where a friend lives, I would rather stay with a friend than stay in a hotel. But I'm also a person who needs to do acts of service. So when I go to someone's house, it starts really small. I do the dishes and maybe vacuum. And then while they're sleeping, I CLR the shower head and take all the hair out of the drain. And then I color code all the closets. Now, thanks to Home Edit, it's rainbowed. I cut their kids' hair and nails, pick up the dog poop. Fix that banister. Why wasn't it fixed? All of those things get done. Now my friends who are still friends with me, I do get invited back, not always on my timeline. Spring and before Christmas, for some reason, is when they want me to come. Thank you. Now you all want me at your house. That's great, because I'm moving, so I'll have lots of places to stay. All right, I am probably one of 5 people who read the Stony Plain Reporter. I read the Stony Plain Reporter because as a person with anxiety, the regular world news is too much. I cannot. The Stony Plain Reporter, however, the cover, seniors walking, and they see a kitten. Oh my. Council approves a recreation center. Yay, council! And my favorite page, as you get to the end, there is a new sex pill, and it is better than Viagra. I think they're trying to get their readership to swell in size. This also explains the STIs that are going through the senior center. They do have those new hips to try out. There Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a great night.
Yes, Angela Fedge Musica. Let's give her another round of applause. And you know how the drink lineup was really long? Well, she's going to be over there taking invitations after the show. So if you want to get in line, yeah, I hear she's very good at what she does. Anyhow, we have one last comic. Please welcome Mr. Braxton Harris.
This is it. You know, I was real nervous about doing this. But then I found out tickets were $45, and I thought, well, this is great. Life is expensive. No one can afford this. No one's going to be here. I didn't realize there were so many rich people in Parkland County. Now I know what it feels like to be a jester in the King's Court. Why am I here? This was supposed to be a good activity for my mental health, but it's been stress. Many sleepless nights, wondering if people are going to laugh at my jokes or not. So I got the idea to run them by my wife. And to my surprise, she doesn't laugh. So I crumpled them up and threw them in the trash. But then she stops me, says, well, Braxton, you're not making any sense. I says, what do you mean? She says, well, when your jokes aren't worth telling, you get all fussy and throw them away. But when your life's not worth living, you still show up like it's not a problem. It is a problem, though. I suck at living. But what's worse is I suck at dying, too. You see, I failed suicide twice. When my ex found out about it, she called up. You know, she didn't realize things were as bad as they were and wanted to offer me words of encouragement. I'm pretty sure it's just stuff she read off of cat posters in the library. She says, shoot for the stars. Hang in there. And never give up, because you know what they always say. Third time's the charm. I wonder what happens after death, though. I believe in everything, especially ghosts. But you know the scariest thing about ghosts is? The amount of peeping Toms who have become one. What about reincarnation, though? What if you come back as something you were afraid of? That's why when spiders hatch, they all go running around. They're freaking out about all the other spiders. But you know what I would do is I'd find a way to get to my funeral. Then I could wonder how all the people who didn't have time for me are all suddenly available. But I'd find my wife, and so I could go be beside her again. And then she'd take a look over and smack me with my own memorial pamphlet, killing me for a second time. Well, it's easy to get in trouble when you're married. It is for me anyway. And my problem is listening. I just can't do it. I try, but my mind wanders. And sometimes I can get away with it. Just by letting her talk and nodding my head. But sometimes there's questions at the end. Like, what did I just say? The first time she asked that, I thought, well, this is great. She doesn't know either. So I began to make something up. Unfortunately for me, she knew exactly what she said. She knew it so well, she was able to repeat it with higher volume and a few choice words I'm pretty sure she didn't use the first time around. You know, I don't always have to sleep on the couch, though. And I know a lot of you don't believe me, but I got proof. We're having another baby. Thank you. Now, the thing about having babies is you got to name these things. And with the first one, we really thought about it. We wanted something nice, long, poetically beautiful. And we went with Aurora. And I love it. Not this time, though. This time, we want something short and easy to pronounce so we don't get tongue twisted when we're telling them to quit tearing the furniture or coloring on the walls. As it is right now, I sound like the dog next door when I'm yelling at her. Aurora! Aurora! I love it, though, the family thing. You see, I worked in camp for many, many years. And being in camp, there's lots of isolation. And stores are far away, so it's easy to run out of things. And sometimes you run out of things that people need, like coffee. They ran out one night, but the night shift, they're smart, they know how to improvise. And what they did was they snuck into my room and they started attaching these tubes to my pores, collecting my sweat and dripping it into buckets. Now, I woke up during this, and they saw that and they explained, well, we ran out of coffee, so we thought we could sweat it out of you. I said, well, did it work? Well, they said, sort of. It's the right color, but it tastes like grape juice and depression. They should have been here now, though. I'm sweating bullets. And I knew this would happen. So I did some research on the internet on how to stay calm in situations such as this, and what it said to do was picture the audience naked. Now, I can't do that. It's not because my mom is here, but it's because my wife is. And if she knows I'm up here picturing all these women naked, we're all going to be in trouble. My life's a joke. I know my life's a joke. I've been up here reciting passages from my diary, and everyone keeps laughing. So during the time it took for us to put the program together, the comedians I work with, I found out that one of them is familiar with my mom. And so I told her about him, and she says, yeah, I remember him. He's a fun and funny guy. Then she asks how I know him. And I tell him, well, he's part of the stand-up for mental health comedy show. And she's like, Landon's gonna be there. With about as much excitement as if we're talking about Eddie Murphy in the 80s. And now she wants to know when she can get tickets. So everyone's all like, oh, your mom came to see you, how so sweet. Well, that's not it. I'm just performing at a show she happens to be at. I am his Marvel post-credit scene. I'm just kidding. No, she supports me. She supports me a lot more than you'll ever know. And I got a lot of support from the fine comedy team assembled here tonight. And I did see some surprise support in the corner. I got some people from work are here. Now, I had a few more jokes I wanted to tell. A bit more than a few, actually, but see, I don't know if that's a good idea, because I'm going to need my job tomorrow still. So, good night.
Give it up again for Braxton Harris. Yeah, I can just see him going home to his wife. Honey, what did I say tonight? I told you there would be questions. Let me repeat it back to you with a few choice words I didn't use the first time.